What's up, guys? I kind of had a change of plans. I'm a little bit stalled out on this project on site just because I'm waiting on a few things. I really can't do much more until I have a few things come through. But in the meantime, I'm going to work on a seemingly unrelated project. I'm going to build a little bathroom vanity, which I'll give you all the information about it, but because I know what size the bathroom is and the rough layout of things, it's not too hard to build a vanity and leave some breathing room for it. So I'm going to show you what my plan is right now. I got to thinking about it, if you remember a few videos ago, I got all of these oak posts, and I didn't really have a plan for them. I've got a couple plans for them now, but I'm going to see if I can use, and I've already picked out a couple that are straight. They're not as straight as what I'd like for them to be, but some that I can tell by the way that they're sawn, like they're quarter sawn, that they're probably going to be pretty stable. And that just means quarter sawn. It just means like the way that, I'm trying to find one here that's already like that you can kind of see. This one looks a little bit that way, but in oak you can see a lot of fleck in it. I'm trying to find one that has it. Of course, none of these do, but just looking at it, I can tell by the way that it's cut, it's going to be pretty solid, like stable lumber. It's not going to, here we go, here's some, where it's got like this sort of tiger stripe looking stuff in it. I don't know if you can see that, but here's some more, yeah, like that. Rift sawn and quarter sawn are probably the most stable lumber, and so this pile of lumber had been setting, it was covered. It hasn't got much moisture since then. I don't know what the moisture content is, but I'm going to show you kind of a really old school way to build to where you can use lumber that's not as stable as like you'd get at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. This is supposed to be somewhere around 7% to 10% to be furniture stable, but I think I can get away with what I'm doing, and I'll show you kind of the plan here in a second. So here's the layout of the bathroom. It's going to be 5 by 8. And I know that the tub, the rough end for the tub is 30 inches. The toilet is 30 inches. And so that leaves me with 36 inches to play with. And that's the vanity top and everything. And so I've decided I'm going to give myself a little bit of breathing room and make it 34 inches wide. And here's a front face view, front on view, and here's a side view. So it'll be 18 inches deep. And the countertop for it will be, 19 and a half or whatever. But I'm going to design it in such a way, one, that it's easy to build, and two, that it will allow the best chance for it to expand and contract and not split. And so how I'm going to do that is, here's kind of like if you were looking overhead, like I am right now, at the finished vanity. I'm going to take these posts and notch them out each side and leave room for expansion, because really the way that wood moves is end to end. It doesn't move as much, this way, but that way. And so no wood glue, just fasteners, and I will give it breathing room so it can expand or contract either way and still be fine. And you can see that by this. What happens is when you butt two pieces of wood together, especially the butt end into the other piece, it'll shrink back, and it'll pull everything and warp it and twist it, or just break the joint. And so this way, there's no wood to wood, but you have it recessed behind that. So when it moves, because it will invariably, all wood moves, it won't be noticeable, won't be visible, or at least that's my hope. And then the drawer fronts, we'll see how those go. They might be a train wreck, and I'll have to get some actual cabinet grade lumber. But I'm going to use two pieces and dowel them and glue them together and hope for the best. We'll see what happens. But if it does split, I'll probably take them off and rebuild those drawer fronts. But that's the only part I'm really worried about. The side, I'm probably going to join two pieces together and then leave an actual overlap sort of furniture joint there so that it can expand and contract. And I know this works because this is how they used to build it a long, long time ago, before we had the technology that we do, before we had really good glue and all that. And then this bottom part will be off the ground, probably 4 inches, and then have slats on top that are already spaced, so that shouldn't matter much anyway. So I'm going to do my best to show you all the processes of it, but I don't have a jointer, and that's the thing that you run the wood through. Kind of looks, here's the table saw, you run it through this way, and has a spinning blade that levels it out, you know, on the flat and on the edge. And so I picked the best lumber I could find. I'll show you these two. They look pretty straight. Like I said, they have the right sort of saw pattern, and I'm gonna do my best to make them as flat and as square as possible. And it may take three, but we'll see. I'm gonna try for 2, and then I'll let you know what happens. But all right, so here is my cut list. And some of this I don't know, I'll just figure it out as I go. But I've got to make the 4 corner posts in essence. It'll be 30 inches long, and I'm gonna cut those down to probably 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. Then I need 4 of the drawer pieces. So those will be about 3 1/2 wide. And I'm not sure, I'll have to show you that, but I'm gonna have to cut. I wish I had a bandsaw or something else, but we'll make it do. And then the side pieces that are similar to those, 3 1/2 wide. And then the top rails and the bottom rails. The bottom rail will have kind of a towel shelf with the slats. The side rails, the same sort of thing. This is what keeps the top together and square. And then the slats for the bottom. So there's really not a whole lot to it. I'm going to do the drawers kind of in a different thought, because I'll probably make those out of scrap plywood. So first I'm going to end up breaking down the post material. I'm just going to use a skill saw and probably flip it once, but I'm going to cut it a little bit long. I need 30 inches finished, and so I'll cut it at 31, and I'm going to get 3 posts out of this piece, and then I'll cut the other one. So here we go. And yes, I have earplugs in and glasses for the comments. Before I forget, I changed out this blade. This is the one I put in it, and it's like a 24 tooth for this 60 tooth. And I know this blade looks terrible, but I keep my blades, and I have a guy that sharpens them. Actually, it's pretty economical. Kind of like the idea that it's not just going to waste. But guy in my church, I don't remember how much he charges me, but if it was $5, I wouldn't be surprised by that. And so I'm switching out this blade, one because it's tired. I'm going to send it to him, along with a few others I've got. But the less teeth you have, the better it's going to go when you're trying to just rough cut something and not burn up your saw. So that's what I'm going to do next. I've got my post cut. I'm going to cut off the excess to make them as close as I can to whatever the minimum dimension is, which is like this dimension, 2 1/2, 2 1/4, something like that. So I'll put you on and show you that. So now I'm going to run these through the planer to true up every side and get rid of the old part. And I'm going to try to get them as close as I can to the same size, but a 1/16 of an inch between them is not going to really make a difference visually or otherwise. Now I'm going to go through and use my square to see what is the most square situation. Then I want that one to be down on the bed of the planer so that the top gets trued, because all the planer does is put it parallel to whatever the bottom is. So if you got a piece of wood that's really wonky, it's not going to work. And so luckily this stuff I think is close enough I can probably get away with it. So I'll show you what I mean by that. When you're looking at this, put a square up on it and see, and that's not so good. That is, it's better. So I want to end up putting this face, let me think about this way. This will be the face that will be on the ground, or on the planer bed, because the top is less square than the bottom. Make sense? So I'm going to do that, and then I'll put them back through, and we'll plane the other sides. I'm going to stop right there because that's pretty close. It's not exactly a square, but I think it'll be okay. It's looking pretty square this way. Sounds a little out, but considering what this is, it's not bad. It's very usable. There's my 4 posts, and now I'll move on to some of the other parts. Right, now I've got 4 more pieces. This one's real thick. That's probably going to mess me up some, but I'm going to run these through and plane them down, mill them down to just a little under an inch. They're about at an inch right now, so not quite 3/4. I don't know what the next inch mark would be, but 7/8, something like that. So these will be the bottom. So I might rip them again, but the bottom, and then the top part, the top rail to go across, and the 2 drawers below it, and then the side pieces for the bottom and the top. So here we go. About 7/8 right now, and I've still got a little bit of saw mark on this side, but it should be okay. You can't see just the front. Now these are really kind of jacked up, and so I might have to get a little creative on how I true these up because they're not so good. Honestly, I could probably run it through the table saw. That might be what I do. Run it through the table saw first, and then figure it out after that. So now I've got one side that's pretty flat. It's got some saw marks on it, but I can sand out for the most part. I'm going to leave this side kind of wild because you won't see it, and I'm lazy. I decided to run the whole post through. It seems like that'll true it up. And then I'm going to cut it, and then I'll probably run it through again piece by piece. So I'm going to cut this post in half so I can get my 4 pieces for the drawer fronts. And then probably I'm going to have to get another post more than likely. So I got those cut actually pretty good. I think it's probably a better hack to go, or a better method to go half blade or so and flip it. It seems like the saw isn't as strained by doing that. So it's good to know. It helps to have, you've got to have a sharp blade and you got to have a ripping blade. If you try to do this with the blade I had in there, the saw would be a pile of smoke by now. But I'm going to run these through the planer, and I'll probably skip videoing it because you've seen plenty of that. And then I'll put you on for the next part. All right, so I'm thinking about how I'm going to cut the cross section on this. Let me show you what it should look like. So here's a cross section of what it should look like, and I'm about to lay that out on this. And I need to figure out depth and the height and all the things. So I'm doing that right now. I'm just going to leave it on while I'm scratching my head and figuring it out. Okay, so here is front facing. This would be the corner closest to the wall, if you can picture that. And then I think I want to cut out this section I've got checkered here. I worry if that's going to look weird down where you don't need it to be. So I might only cut it down to a certain spot and then go from there. Maybe I'll just cut down enough to do so it'll be a piece like that on the front. And then this side will be you know, like that. So the side against the wall, I don't need a bunch of relief cuts, just here. This might be kind of tough to do. I might be freehanding a lot of this and cleaning it up with the chisel, truth be told. I don't know, I'm gonna turn the camera off and think about it and just make it happen. All right, so after chiseling around, and see what I've got here, each individual piece is gonna go. I'll grab one like this. And so from the front, you know, have that recess. It'll be kind of an old thing, and when the wood moves, it'll move this way. It'll move a little bit that way too, but it'll move up and down and hopefully negate some of the problems that you have with lumber that's not as dry as you like. So I've got the top looking like this. On the bottom, I've got kind of the same thing going on. Funny with the shadow, but see how that's going to be. Or excuse me, this is the top. That's the bottom. The first thing I've got to do, I've got to join these pieces together. I got 4 of them. I don't have a edger. I don't have a shaper, and so I'm going to do the best I can. It's pretty good. It's kind of rustic anyway, so I'll find the right fit. And put them together using probably, what am I trying to say? Craig jig screws, the little Craig jig. So I use that. Then I'll run through the planer, sand them one more time, and it'll be pretty good. Well, the one I had, I tried to use and it was just not, it wasn't doing so good. And so I went and bought the real deal, and the difference is astounding. This one I had was kind of messed up anyway, and so that's why I have like Swiss cheese going on here, but this is far superior to whatever that garbage was. Mine had bent, and so it wasn't getting the right angle, but this is the cheapest one they make. Still $40 stinking, but gotta have it. Anyhow, I'm gonna set up and time lapse me putting these flat pieces together. This is definitely not going to be the prettiest thing in terms of the edge. I'm going to sand it to try to make it a little better and glue it. I'm going to need some wood filler. That's just what we're going to do. This whole thing is going to look kind of rustic anyway, so I think it'll be fine. No, that doesn't look right. There is something terribly wrong with this glue. Yikes. I think it's probably been frozen. Still real sticky. There we go. Golly. What in the world? Well, it's still sticky, so I'm going to go for it. It looks terrible. I mean, it's sticky as ever, which is surprising, but I don't know. may be a disaster. Well, I'm running out of daylight for today, but I'm going to go ahead and sand down a few of these pieces, and then I will resume in the morning. Well, I'm out of light, so I'm going to quit for tonight. Well, I'm about to run these through the planer so I can get rid of the sort of line between them. I don't have a joiner, and so I'm going to do my best to straighten them out. I did the best I could to kind of line them up with a hammer and a couple clamps, but I don't have a clamping table because everything I'm doing is working outside, as you can tell, and I pulled tools out of a trailer. So we'll see how it goes. Well, here's what I've got after I've sanded it. It's definitely not perfect, but I kind of want it to be a little bit rustic feeling anyway. These are definitely two species of oak. This is probably a white or something, and then this is probably red, and I'm going to say it's red because the way it looks, but also it's got like bug holes in it, and I think they stay away from the white oak. So anywho, this is surprisingly good. Given the terrible joinery, I mean, these two pieces right here are really, I mean, that's pretty legit, honestly. At the edges, you can kind of see where they bow, and then even the grain matches pretty good. This one's not as good as this one, but pretty happy with that. This will be on the side of it toward the toilet, so it won't matter as much. I'm using the same species for, well, you'll see on the bottom, but I'm going to end up staining it all with kind of a gray to try to hide the fact that I'm mixing probably white oak and red oak, and so we'll see how it goes. But I've done this before, and it's turned out pretty good. I just kind of have to play it by ear. You stain it a little bit, see what it does, and then if it needs more, then you do more. As I'm editing this, I'm realizing that it's way too long, and so I'm going to make it two parts. And so this is the end of part one.